Hello, welcome to the FM Network. I'm Charlie, also known as, funnily enough, Pump Freester, and today I'm going to offer you 5 simple tips on how to make the most out of your transfer budget. 5 really easy ways to find the next big thing and fire yourself up that table and win those trophies. Let's get straight into it. Okay, so here we are for tip number 1. Now, there's going to be a little bit of explanation before this first one. The rest of these tips you should be able to do right from the beginning of your save. But this first one, you're going to need to be at least a year into your save to get there. So second summer, let's say, third summer, depending on what league you're managing in. But this one is all to do with expected goals. And I know you're all going to yawn at the idea. Statistics, they're all fun, aren't they? But hey, basically, if you're not entirely sure what XG is, it's new in the game this year. Basically what it says is, okay, how many chances has that striker had? And how good were those chances? So if your striker's only shooting from 40 yards, it's going to be a really low number. But if they're scoring lots of tap-ins, it's going to be a very juicy high number. And what we're looking for is those really big numbers. But there's a caveat to that as well. You want someone that is scoring lots of goals to go with those chances. So I'm here on the player search screen. Most of these tips are going to bring you here. There's one that's going to be a little bit more in depth, but we'll get to that one at the end. So here I am on the player search screen. I'm Birmingham. We're in the Premier League. We're kind of that. We've just avoided relegation. We're looking to build into mid-table. So this sort of side, but it works every level. I've done it in the Championship, League 1, League 2. It works every level for the players you're looking for. So make sure we're looking for interested players. And what do I tend to do if I'm a Premier League team or whatever team I am? I will look at players that have a value, a slightly higher value because you're going to spend a bit more on them. But that's not important for this one, so we'll get that removed. So what you want to look for is 2 main things. You want high XG and you want goals scored. There's an extra one though. You want to be looking at what division that was scored in. So if there is a player scoring lots of goals in, say, a really low reputation league where the other players aren't as good, then you might not be getting quite as good a player. But let's jump into it. And there are going to be some outliers. This is going to take a little bit of looking at. So, for example, I've already done a little bit of scouting here. There's someone like Martin Katsande, who is, I believe, a new gen, plays for Barnsley in the Championship, so a good level, sort of level we'd be looking at. And now it's where this is just a way of isolating players for your scouts to look at. So I found this player, and my scouts think, okay, wonderful player, but with lots of potential. He would be the sort of player I would look at. Now, so you've isolated one, but now, okay, we can look at some other ones. There are ones in other leagues. So there's a guy here, Abu S. Sahal. I hope I got that right. Now, this is one where you get your scouts to look at and go, okay, I'm looking at attributes here. I have attribute masking turned off, but this also works with no issues with attribute masking on. That's when the scouting is going to be really important. So make sure scouts are very high in judging player ability and judging player potential. So Abu S. Sahal is maybe one you'd look at scouting, but it's just about looking here. So another one, Paul Onuachu, a little bit of a wonder kid from about 10 years ago. Well, probably less than 10 years ago now, but the sort of player, okay, look, good stats there, but look, so 23 goals in 36 games, decent division for Genk, top Belgian division. It's the sort of thing in real life where a team like Birmingham in their level, so we're talking about Brighton, Aston Villa, we're talking about like the newly promoted sides as well, that would look at this sort of player. So he's got a high average rating, he scored goals, but this is just a good way, pretty much just for strikers, unfortunately, because there isn't a statistic like XG for your midfielders and your defenders. But if you're looking for an inside forward that maybe scores goals, this could work for that as well. And there's another one, Rafa Mir, another one that I've looked at scouting as well. So just go through, and if you see players, I would maybe tailor your value depending on what league you're in. So if I'm in a higher league, then I'm probably not going to look at some of these players like Hamadou Dieng, who plays in, I believe that's in Senegal, right? Yeah, plays in Senegal. I might look at him, but 30 as well. But you can tailor this however you like. So if you want to look for those higher value players that are going to be really good, just scroll from the top down and make sure when we're talking about goals, you want players. So this one here's a great example. Iker Blasco, you might initially see XG of 26.14 and go, wow, this guy really gets into good positions. He's only scored 9 goals, which suggests he really isn't good at finishing. He's getting into positions that he just can't finish from. And actually, that seems a bit of an issue there. Right back getting that one. But anyway, that's the main crux of that. So look for XG, look for those goals scored, and make sure those numbers are nice and close. And hey, if the goal scored is way more than the XG, then you should be getting on that really quick. Absolutely be looking for those players. Let's jump on now to number 2. Okay, so here we are. Tip number 2. Now this one, real bargain stuff. You can use this at any level. I like this one a lot. It's a little bit of a simplification of a system that other people use, but it's the other way to do it would take you quite a long amount of time. It would be quite a involved process. This way makes it a little simpler. But what we're going to do, you're going to go to your player search. So let's take this out for a second. I can show you exactly how to do it while I'm not talking over it. Hit your player search screen, hit that new search button, contract status unattached. We're looking at free agents, baby. There are going to be some absolute wonders in here, I believe. And yeah, so what you're going to see here, normally, you're on your general info on your page. You're going to right click this top bar along where it says position. And now we're going to search by, go to general, go to world reputation. And this here will give you an idea of where the player, the sort of level the player's played at. It might be that they've played internationally, potentially, for a smaller nation that's popped their reputation up. But that's all fine. I can help you through that as we go now. So we're going to sort by world reputation. And now this will give you, make sure you've got your interested in to transfers only usually. But as you get later through the season, you can take that off a little bit and see if there are any players willing to come in on trial. But we'll hit that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So here I am. I'm Birmingham. Like I said again, I'm showing you exactly the same situation as before. I've skipped ahead, as you can see, to the 1st of July. So when all the tasty free agents are going to be around. And now, so I'm going to be looking for a midfielder, any position really, and you can just go through this list. It's so simple. Olivier and Cham, not Andre Villas-Boas, his favourite player, but, you know, good footballer. He'd be fantastic for me, actually. Or put him, we'll get a scout report in him. I like the look of him. And then looking down, so what you can find here is someone like Marcelo Brozovic actually would join Birmingham, but you might not have seen him in any other way. This way, I found someone with real talent, obviously not the most unusual of names, but yeah, a good option. And also something I like to do as well, this is, I think, when you're a lower league team, this would be my number one off-season tip. Get yourself to this screen here and sort by age and find yourself, honestly, you're going to find yourself, even under 17 players. There may not be that many, but there are going to be some absolutely quality players that have just become free agents. So this guy here, I mean, I've just picked one at random. Richard, what I actually tend to do at times is on this first day, the best players are going to get bid on pretty much straight away. So someone like Richard Cuesta, if you're a Championship League One team, maybe even League Two, you might be able to get him with the work permit system in England, or if you're abroad as well, that also works. It's looking at these players exactly the same. The one thing you are going to need is a high scouting package. What I'd recommend here, if you're a lower league team, get yourself to £60,000 in the scouting budget. That way you can scout the whole world and you'll be able to find some unbelievable talent. I know in FM20 it worked as well, but in FM21 as well, you're going to find some absolute wonderful bargains. I can't stress it enough. If you're a lower league team in any country, even a top division team like I am, someone like Richard Cuesta, I'm going to bring in and I'm going to ship out in a couple of years for money, or he might become a first team player. That's probably a £1 or £2 million player right there. I expect maybe even higher. He's 17. It's fantastic. And now we're looking at under 18s as well. So just come up through this list. So just go through this list year by year. And in terms of ages, make sure you're doing this on the 1st of July, because then you're going to have the perfect selection of players. And here we go again. Someone that I've scouted anyway, because I knew he was going to be a free agent. Someone like Daniel Alcorta, it's going to be fantastic, very fast, very good player to have. But you can bring these players in for real cheap as well, because they're going to be free agents. And I really can't emphasize enough how important this tip would be. Let's move on now to tip number 3. Okay, so here we are for tip number 3. Now, this one, another one of my favourites. So we've looked at free agents, we've looked at strikers, we're still looking for bargains, right? So what I'm going to search for, let's go back to general info again. I'm going to look for, right click there, insert column. This is where clauses are going to be your friend after the end of the season. Now, I'm a little further in, so you might have lost a couple of out. So do this as soon as clubs get relegated and these start to activate. You want active relegation release clauses, and you're going to find really some real big bargains. I've gone a little bit further ahead in this, so I know which sort of players are around. So someone like this, Carlo Holes, valued at £17 million. If I want to buy him, £6 million. That's almost a third of his value. And if you're a club like Birmingham, or if you're a Championship side looking to add quality to your team, someone like this could be the difference between getting promoted and staying in the Championship, or being a lower Premier League side and being a upper Premier League, upper Bundesliga, upper Serie A, upper La Liga, upper team. Doing this, you're getting players for pennies on the pound is unbelievable value sometimes. And even so, someone like this Gaspar Simoes Fernandez, now not great now, but you're getting someone. If I wanted to buy him 12 months ago, they'd have asked for £40 million, but now 7.5. I think that's value that you're just not going to get any other time. So make sure you're doing your scouting on these players. because you are going to get bargains. Always come back and look. And even looking lower down here, if you are a Championship, a League One, a League 2, a Bundesliga 2, a lower level team within a top division, get yourself looking at some of these players available here, because there are some wonderful, absolutely top draw bargains to be found here. And make sure as well, if you really want to, if you say you're a bigger team looking for that depth out of this position, we can do that too. So if we go here and look for value, and I'm going to do it at least, and we're going to look for players that are at least £10 million valued. Now, there aren't going to be many of these. I'll hold my hands up, because there's not going to be loads of teams that are going to be relegated, obviously, and have these higher value players. To say that I'm a Liverpool looking for a backup left back who's going to be good, Tariq Mitchell, I think he's probably going to fit the bill there, right? 27 million as opposed to 21. They would probably have wanted 40 to 50 million pounds. You're getting bargains there. Another one here, Bruno Fuchs, 23 million pound rated. You're getting him for 18 million. If you want to bring in that extra little bit of depth and you're a top team, the Liverpools, Barcelonas, the Juventuses, I can't stress enough how many bargains you're going to find in this list. There are going to be some quality players for half price, third of the price. Get yourself looking at these players, because there are some bargains in here. Let's move on now to tip number 4. Okay, tip number 4. Now, this one is more appropriate if you are a top team. If you are, like we just said, if you are a Liverpool, a Barcelona, or a Juventus. That sort of level, lots of money to spend, but you're looking for maybe the next generation of great players, or you're looking for someone to replace a player in your team. What we're going to do this one, pretty simple. You're going to go to your player search screen again, go to that new search button, and we're going to be looking for attributes. Click pick, highlight key attributes for roles. Say I'm looking for an advanced forward on attack. And now it's just as simple. So this button here, the minus button, is going to drop all of the stats here. So it's giving you all the main areas. So if you were to look at an advanced forward, these would be all the areas highlighted. And you can drop it to 14 in all those areas, and that maybe give you some more players. What I find is you drop it to 14 if you're a top team, and then maybe look, okay, 14 out of 15. There we go. There's one here. Jonathan Baron plays for Fulham. If I'm a top team, even just a brief glance at his attributes, I would definitely be looking at bringing someone like that in. £11 million. Now, these aren't going to be a way of finding the real cheap players necessarily. It does work in some cases. So if you drop this down, you're going to drop the quality a little bit. I mean, Jonathan Baron is showing up really highly now in terms of an advanced forward. So here we go. So you've dropped it down to 11 out of 15. So it might mean that 4 of the attributes that are key to an advanced forward are going to be below 14. It might be that they're really low. So you want to really be paying attention to what level they're at. And what I do is just look here, drop it to see who the lowest value players are. So Melvin Mabongu, I don't know how to say his name. I've butchered it. I actually think there's not an awful lot of difference between someone like this and someone like Baron we've just looked at. He's 23 years old. He's French. Now, work permits might be an issue if you're in England, but if you are in Liga and if you are in the Bundesliga, if you are in Serie A, you're going to find some real bargains here. I mean, how much would they want for him? £450,000 for a player who I think would come straight into my Birmingham side in the Premier League and offer a real good option. And £450,000, that's a championship level. I mean, a top League One level of purchase. I think he would score you the goals to get you out of either of those divisions. Whether he'd want to join is a different question, but it's just important to keep looking through these players. And you might find the odd wonderkid. Someone like Sava, thank you for that name, Mrdjanovic. I don't know why I'm saying his name because that's very difficult. This is exactly what you're going to find with this. You're going to find players like Sava that are fantastic young players. And it's just so simple. It's not going to take you lots of time. You're not going to have to go scouting through lots of different teams. Although, stick around for tip 5 where that will become very useful. But you're going to find players like him, players like Hamid Haddadu, again, another difficult name, who isn't actually necessarily a striker, but you might look at him and go, okay, I can train him to be an advanced forward. I could train him even. I'm looking at him. He could be an inside forward a little bit. He's not quite got the pace for it. But if someone like that, you're just going to find really simply a good option there. Someone like Antonio Capape, although he's at Tottenham, so difficult to get. But nice and simple way. You can do that for any role in your team. So if you're looking at your tactic and thinking, I need someone like Leif Davis, who's a left wing back. Also, this is another tip. Say, for example, so I'm at Birmingham. I've got a new gen here called Carl Mansaram. He wants to leave. Okay, so what do? I want to be looking on the look, really, for his heir apparent, his replacement. So just go to his screen. Let's actually show you that nice and obviously. Go to comparison, go to find similar players. It's such a valuable button. And here we go. Luis Karanka. Okay, he's not going to cut the mustard for it. But the game is going to pick players that can play that are so similar to that player you've got. So you might not want him to be a winger. You might find players that can play that role better. And again, drop it down to 40 and see if there's any options there. So there's someone like Matthias Ocampo, who's a pretty decent player. Maybe sort by age again, and you can find players like this. There's going to be players always available. It's really useful for getting that next level of player. And actually, hello, we'll have a scout of him as well. That's another good one to find. Mohamed Farouk, but new gens. So let's get on to tip number 5, which is going to be the first tip that isn't on the player search grid. It's going to be a little bit more in depth. Let's get straight into that. Okay, so final tip number 5. You join me here on the England squad. Now, this isn't necessarily where I would look to start with, but what we're looking for here is young players that are starting to come in that 2025 to 2030 era of time. You're going to start seeing some of these new gens creeping in. Not quite happened yet for England, but I've already gone through and seen there's a couple in some of the big teams that are probably pretty cheap to pick up. But if you're that big team again, you can go and pick up those great young players that maybe haven't been spotted or have been, and you can pay a little bit more to get them. So it's just as simple as going through each international team, making sure we're sorting by age, looking for those youngest players that are there. So Jude Bellingham would be one, but obviously not quite the sort of bargain we're looking for. So we're going to scroll through. Maybe someone like Estonia has a good young player that's come through. Actually, make sure you're looking at these young players that are there. And if you've got a big scouting group or if you have a big scouting range, I'd be scouting at this point in 2025, everyone under the age of 20, these sort of European nations. Maybe not necessarily the teams like the Faroe Islands, but we're looking at those sort of middle-level teams. Make sure you're looking through some of these attributes. I mean, here, Robin Teehee, great name. He would be quite an interesting little backup option, maybe for someone like Birmingham, sort of upper championship level. He could be very good, but just make sure you're looking for all these young players, looking through the national teams. You're going to find some absolute bargains. And even look at the starting teams. Look at the starting 11s that have been picked. And if there are any young players in there for any sort of the European nations, the South American nations, they are well worth your time looking at. Just have a quick look. This is a little bit more of an in-depth way of doing it. You can go further in depth as well by looking at the youth teams of all them. I tend to only look at the major nations. But if you do it for every nation, which is a big, and this is why the idea of this video is not to be spending lots and lots of time doing this. But it's so simple. Just looking through each national team and going, okay, 19-year-old who's Georgian, not really off my time, but it's just a quick glance to have a look. Obviously, Germany's going to be a bit of a mess, maybe miserable, but depending on what level you're at, look for all these teams, and you might even find if someone's a free agent in the international team, someone like this could be worth looking at if you're a championship, a Ligue 2, a second Spanish tier, or further afield. Be looking through these national teams because it's going to give you an idea of who the best players from that nation are. The game's actually usually pretty good at finding them, so make sure you're keeping your eyes on these international teams. Be looking through, be on the scout for these sorts of players. So someone here that I think Liverpool have got to steal on. So it's Boris, great name. If you'd have picked him up a couple of years ago, I mean, he made his debut, I think, a couple of years ago. If you're looking through the under-21 sides, you'd have found someone like this. £3 million Liverpool paid for him. You wouldn't get him for under 100 million now. So be looking through these international teams. You're going to find some bargains. I can guarantee it. Absolutely. And that brings to an end, really. Tip 5, it's really simple. If you've got any questions on it, you can find me down in the comments. Make sure you pop in comments down there. Let me know. Also, are there any ways that you do it that I've not mentioned? I'd love to come back and do a part 2 where we go through your ways of doing it and finding those real bargains. That's what I play FM for, is to find huge bargains. Absolutely love it. Make sure you get in those comments. Let me know.